We're so excited that you are able to spend some time with us this morning. My name is Jackie Eaton, and I am the Community Action Program for Children Training and Education Coordinator here at the Saskatchewan Prevention Institute. And we are so excited to have Leah Arcan join us today for the Save Rez Dogs Innovative Approaches to Increasing Community Safety. You would have noticed when you signed in, or I'm hoping that you got the notification that this webinar is being recorded, and we will be forwarding the recording link out to all registrants, as well as it'll be on the Saskatchewan Prevention Institute's website in a few days. It usually takes a few days for us to get started. So before we begin the webinar, I would just like to welcome you all, and I would like to do a land acknowledgement. So I currently live, work, and play on Treaty 6 and the homeland of the Métis, and I want to express my sincere gratitude and respect for all those that came before me and for the privilege of being able to live on this land. I work at the Saskatchewan Prevention Institute, which is a provincial organization, and I just want to extend my appreciation to the Nahiawuk, Nahithawuk, Nahinawuk, Dene, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, Ananishpik, and Nakaways people, and those from the homeland of the Métis. My ancestors came to Canada as settlers, and I want to acknowledge these treaties of these lands and reaffirm that I am committed to building healthy relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. So I mentioned the Saskatchewan Prevention Institute is a provincial organization, and our goal is healthy children. Our mandate is to, using primary prevention methods, promote the well-being of children and help them thrive. So everything we do here has a focus really looking at that 0 to 6, but anyone that's interacting with children. So parents, expectant parents, healthcare providers, service providers, really anyone that is wanting to help children thrive. So we are so excited that Leah had agreed to do this presentation for us, because this is a conversation about preventing harms due to dog bites has been a conversation that has come up through our medical advisory committee. And so this presentation is not specifically on dog bites, but I am so thrilled that she is able to share her message. And I was just sharing before that it's so lovely to be able to have some local initiatives that are really working towards helping our communities. So now I'd like to introduce Leah. Leah is from Muskeg Lake Cree Nation. She is a mother of 2. She is a teacher, and she is the founder of the grassroots movement Save Rez Dogs. Since August 2019, Save Rez Dogs has been one of the top Indigenous female-led, volunteer-run organizations focused on advocacy and improving animal welfare in First Nations communities. Save Rez Dogs uses anti-oppressive education and animal rights resources with a mix of res humor to spread the message and build community engagement. Welcome, Leah.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you so much. Thank you for the land acknowledgement. Yeah, let's get into it. Say Leah Arcan, Nisigas and Muskeg Lake Cree Nation. My name is Leah, and I'm very happy to spend this morning with you. So a quick agenda I know I have about an hour and a half, a little less than, and this is generally my agenda for this Prezi, which is available online to the public. I will just sort of get into what is Save Rez Dogs and why do I have this? Why did I start it? So as mentioned in my bio, I am I'm a high school teacher. When I started Save Rez Dogs in 2018, 2019, I was a grade 7-8 teacher on First Nation Reserve, 2 hours outside of Saskatoon. And I was a teacher for a land-based program called Meal Pamatsman, which translates to Good Healthy Living in Cree. And that in 2016, 2017 was the years that I became a dog mom. I didn't have my own kids yet. I had my own place on the reserve, so which meant I had my own space to hold space for stray dogs or to foster dogs, etc. And that's what really started my my own understanding of being a responsible pet owner and being a teacher, and also, you know, being a good community member in the community I was working in. So a lot of things just intersected at that time, just being a dog owner and being a land-based teacher. I'm not registered, so I'm not a registered charity. I take pride in being a complete grassroots sovereign initiative, and it's really just on my own time. But it's based off of the person that I am, like being a passionate, you know, First Nations woman, passionate about teaching First Nations history and, you know, First Nations issues to students. So Save Rez Dogs just really stemmed from that. And so, of course, when I started Save Rez Dogs, eventually online, because fast forward, I moved away from the res. I had gained a reputation for helping dogs, but I also was learning a lot and noticing there wasn't a big representation in rescue world from a First Nations view. So that's why I also started Save Rez Dogs to be an advocate and to, you know, provide education from a First Nations lens. So I never really considered myself to be a frontline rescue. I am able to help where I can, but I also make it clear advocacy and education is where I stand. But based off this this diagram, that when it comes to, you know, building healthy communities, individuals and interactions, there's a whole scope of stakeholders who need to be at place to make it happen. So, Save Rez Dog objectives is to promote responsible pet ownership, to educate youth, and not only just youth, but anyone about how to care for animals, to provide resources to elected leadership. And when I say elected leadership, I, you know, specifically mean chief and council that come from the Indian Act, to build ethical management plans to support owners and members. And I will touch on that part a little further in this presentation. I want to keep raising public awareness and advocate for animals, specifically res dogs, because when I was teaching at the time, my eyes were opened to a lot of crises when it came to kids and dogs, and noticing that, you know, there was a lot of services for kids and families, which is great, and it was very much needed. But when it came to animals, there was little to nothing to help them. And so I just decided, pretty much after a few instances, that, you know, I'm going to keep speaking up, because that's just the person that I've grown to be. And in 2019, before pandemic hit, I started a clothing line, a merch line, to fundraise to support other frontline rescues who can do a lot more intensive work, and, you know, helping other community members with spay neuters and helping First Nation families with vet bills. So just my, you know, small way to help solve a really big issue. How I operate is really just from home, from my phone, from emails, from selling merch and doing presentations like this. Typically I'm a full-time teacher, but right now I'm only half-time, which allows me to do presentations like this. And I'm also half a stay-at-home mom with my children. So doing this is really nice and not so isolating. I get to talk about something I'm really passionate about. Since I've started, I haven't really kept a tally or a total count of how many dogs I've helped save, but I would comfortably say around 250. It could be more. I'm just being humble, and I know it's only been 5 years, but I'll say, like, I know at least, because I've helped a lot, because this is an everyday thing, at least 250 res dogs and some cats as well. I have raised over, at this point now, 80,000 in 4 years to donate out. I started out with just my own money and then paid myself back. And so money that is made now, it just helps keep Save Rez Dogs afloat when it comes to materials, getting merch, shipping, and getting stuff for my vendors. And I volunteer, so this is just on my own time. So this part of the presentation, how is our relationship with dogs, shares a historical and cultural context that is really the basis in understanding of why I guess there's so many dog bites happening now and why isn't no one dealing with it. We have to kind of look back and be like, well, how come no one's taking care of it? And like, what is going on? So in this portion, I kind of touch into our relationship with dogs and how it's evolved over time. So pre-colonialism, and when I talk about that, I talk about when since time immemorial, and pre-contact, when before settlers arrived on our lands. And I'm talking regionally specific to the plains because that's where I'm from. I'm not claiming to be an expert. I'm not an expert on other regions. These are just teachings I've been taught. These is from research on my own. So I just wanted to also make that clear as well. And because I'm a Cree person, I'm a Nahal person. So when it comes to language, linguistically, when we look at the words atim, which means dog, and then we look at the words mistatim, which means horse, it shows, oh, if you can probably hear my dog, it shows that we've had our relationships with dogs before we've had horses. And dogs had played vital roles in our nationhood and literally helped us survive in really hard times as time moved forward. But this is a part that a lot of people don't really understand, is that dogs played a really important role in keeping us moving and keeping us alive and protecting our camps. And so that's a really big part that when I say we, I mean our nationhood as Indigenous people, that we've forgotten. As a historical context, once treaties were signed, immediately after the Indian Act was happening in Ottawa, that our people had no idea about, that had played a really big part in dictating First Nations people's lives in Canada and really debilitated us in a lot of ways. And one way that, as not getting a lot of focus on is our relationship with animals. Because if you think about it, our at the band office level, a chief and council and other community leaders, because of the Indian Act was so destructive and full of systemic racism. Well, now our people have been putting out fires in a lot of areas, like healthcare, education, land, governance, child welfare, everything. And so dogs specifically, and cats, have been very left behind and forgotten, which which leads to an overpopulation, because if you're forgetting something and neglecting something that's right in front of you, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what's been happening since the Indian Act, because in the Indian Act, there's nothing in there that promotes animal welfare at all, right? And there's nothing in there to support members to take care of our animals. And there's nothing in there to support us at all. There's a few resources that I will recommend that people should look, like the 21 Things You Didn't Know About the Indian Act by Bob Joseph. That's a really good book. So yeah, so by looking at this, sorry, I just gotta, in these situations, our animals' importance, our critical roles in our life have changed, and as a result, many communities are focused on our people and next to no dog management plans, which, which is something that I'm still trying to work on, but it'll take some time. So now, post-colonialism and sort of where we are now, dogs are seen as the source of the problem, but they're really a symptom of the problem, therefore seeing dog bites as a symptom of a bigger problem. Because if no one's regulating, or if no one in terms of elected leadership is not supporting dog owners, that means no one is supporting the dogs, and which means another outcome, that children are left very vulnerable to unregulated dogs. Because as we know, and we've seen in news, like unregulated dogs can lead to bigger issues like dog packs, which lead to not just children, but the public at risk. You know, people can't even go outside their house and go to the store without dogs following them, or dog packs, or a lot of other issues around dogs. But I hope that part, really kind of makes sense there. This other parallel that I bring to the table too is, because of colonialism, because of how the government, and policies have been looked down and treated us, we've kind of taken that attitude and we're guilty of treating dogs in that same way, in a very disposable way. So I write this, that our nations are guilty of treating dogs the way the government has treated us. And that's something that we have to really reframe and reclaim. But it's the legacy of colonialism. It's kind of turned some of us into linear thinkers. Our people, our ways of being is a very circular way, but colonialism has turned a lot of mindsets and behaviors in a very linear way. And that's a really big challenge that I'm seeing, because nowadays, there's people who want to help, but there's people in decision-making positions who might have the attitude or the behavior towards dogs that, that the dogs are the problem, that they're in the way. And so, because I teach Indigenous studies all the time, and I teach my students about like our ancestors and our nationhood, I just see how some people, our linear thinkers, forgot instructions on how to live, and forgot the teachings, and forgot basic teachings on respect of all living things. And so that's why I say the biggest challenge today is human behavior and attitudes. And as we see the outcome of dog bites and child safety at risk on reserve. So this is some of the discord being played out that I see in animal rescue, and just in general when I bring up res dogs, from native to non-native people. The one that really stood out to me the most from when I was teaching a grade 3 class a few years ago, when I was starting Save Rez Dogs, I was very excited, and I told the kids about it. And a little boy, he was 7 years old, he raised his hand, and the first thing he said about dogs was, "My reserve shoots dogs." And that just really struck me, and I felt like that's very sad, to hear, you know, a young First Nations boy to say that. I mean, I'm very thankful that he was very honest with me, but I felt very sad that, you know, that was his first thought of a res dog, when that shouldn't be, you know. We shouldn't have to be afraid of our relations like dogs like that, because, you know, they've played such a pivotal role, but it's just an outcome of a lot of things at play, of colonialism, of like not paying attention to like linear thinking. So, you know, 7-year-olds saying like having that discourse of like my reserve shoots dogs, or they need to shoot dogs, it's very problematic and it's very alarming. And it's also a drive for me to kind of, you know, to educate and reframe that, to being like, to teach these young people that, you know, dogs are very important and they're valuable and we should not be shooting them. You know, there's other ways to deal with, you know, dangerous dogs. But yeah, that's something I really want to share. And as you can see, other discourse that, you know, can be from anyone, of if you can't afford to have a dog, you shouldn't have one. But, you know, say that to someone who's, you know, struggling day to day, who is kind of stuck in a poverty cycle, but is a huge animal lover. Like, I dare you to say that. You know, it's not fair to say that as a blanket statement. And then other discourse from leadership saying like, tie your dog up or we'll destroy them. Because I'm like, this is so wild to hear from leadership who claim to be, you know, circular thinkers when they're really not. And so this is just examples of discourse being played out. When it comes to dogs and, you know, dog problems, I just wanted to make a slide that, you know, there's different types of dogs who have roles, and there's different types of dog ownership, and how the dog problem of like dogs in packs really stems from, you know, unspayed female dogs. And stray, unspayed female dogs, in my opinion, are the most vulnerable members in our communities, because A, like, they don't have an owner, they don't have anyone looking out for them, and B, they go in heat a few times a year, which puts them at risk of being followed by a number of dogs who are killing each other to mate with her. So there's a lot of parallels with that. Where we are now. So sorry, I had to get my sitter to get my dog inside. She's barking. Where we are now. So in the social media, Facebook, Instagram aspect, this is the type of stuff that I see, and it's from our own nationhood, and it's very problematic. From dogs mating and being sexualized and being laughed at, and at the masses. When you look at the comments and the likes and the shares on posts like that from Band Office memes, it's appalling, because I'm just trying to like make a post about, you know, let's not shoot dogs and traumatize our children. I'm lucky if I get 10 likes, but if, you know, people make stupid jokes, it just goes viral. And I'm like, that's tough. And it goes to show that, you know, the behaviors and attitudes is a big part of the problem. In the middle is seeing, you know, unregulated dog breeders on the res, which just adds to overpopulation. And it's so problematic because, yes, they might be charging or using this as a money, but there's other people who just choose not to get their dogs spayed and have puppies and just give them away. And when that's not regulated, it just gets out of control. And, you know, people really like the idea of puppies, of course, but wait 10 weeks until that dog grows up, and then no one cares about that dog anymore. So it's another reason why I push for, you know, animal welfare regulation on reserve. And the other one I see is a child was attacked impact in the community. And they're going to do a call. Can anyone help? So again, this is a very reactive post that I see very often, when in actuality we should be doing more preventative things like yeah, supporting owners and supporting the stray dogs. But yeah, it's a lot of it's very reactive. This is also very common to see on the gas bar, the clinic, or the band office, and then it gets posted online, and then I get tagged in it to be like, a dog call is going to happen on so and so reserve, and then you can just see for yourself the language that they use. But this is their way of promoting community safety and public safety. But I feel like it's a very linear way of looking at it. It's not circular. It's very, it paints the picture that dogs are the enemy and they need to be shot or they're going to come hunt you down. And I'm like, where did the responsibility go in this picture? Like, where's the supporting each other going instead? But no, these are very linear examples on dog management all over Canada, not just Saskatchewan, not just Manitoba. This happens all over Canada, but I feel like it's getting a little bit better now. I hope. These are current Band-Aid solutions that I see very often as well. So dogs being leashed up 24/7, which I don't believe is right. I believe that, dogs shouldn't be kept prisoner by their houses, and, because that's just going to make them more violent, and it's just going to do some, mental, emotional harm on that dog as well. Like, why are we bringing up dogs just to leash them 24/7? When there's other ways, you can keep a dog close to home, like building a dog run or building a fence. Like, there's affordable ways, there's Google, and that's what I say. The displacements, number 2, comes from people getting rescues to come in and take all the dogs, and then drive hours to put them in another place for days, and then we'll see what happens. So that's like displacing dogs from their land and their territory, because dogs love their land and they love their people. So that part is very parallel when it comes to the 60s scoop, where First Nations children were literally by law taken and picked up because of government reasons and taken away from their home and situation. So there's a lot of parallels there as well. Number 3 is dog shoot days, where the band tries to hire someone to shoot dogs, and because of we're in this settlement era now, bands have a lot of money and they're choosing to continue to shoot dogs instead of hiring someone to help dogs. And so I'm like, that's the piece that we have to keep working at, to evolve, to stop dog shoot days or to stop culls, because there's other posts, social media posts out there too, where people, either make fun of dog shoot days and ask like, when's the shooting done, LOL, or the purge, they call it the purge. And then there's people who are like, my baby is like in bed with his hands over his ears because all he can hear is gunshots and like dogs, yelping. So by protecting the community, you're actually inflicting trauma on your community without providing any mental health supports. So the issue there is just, to be honest, like, no progressive training when people are put in decision-making positions, and, just going off a whim and just being a linear thinker and not, walking the talk of our teachings that we can still spit in the same day to our children of like how to be a good person. So there's really, the teachings and the current Band-Aid solutions are not meshing, and that has to change big time. Again, this is more social media stuff I see from, in our nationhood, which is another example of discourse and linear thinking and dumb jokes, because I'm like, I'm tired of like the dogs being stuck. Osanasuin is a Cree word for singing against four-leggeds, and there are, stories and teachings of, bad luck or bad karma that, you're going to put on yourself if you're putting harm on animals or any living being. So that is just a reminder for people. This is a spectrum of allies that we created, where, anyone can be on this chart. The goal is to be an active ally, and go towards the left, and how anyone, native, non-native people can fit on the spectrum of allies. And so when I talk about linear thinkers, I'm just trying to, get them to be more active ally and just, shift the mindset of how people think, because again, that's the challenge. Again, this is all available online. On the more positive side, what I'm seeing today is, more frontline rescues that are building partnerships with communities, and so important, and, and listening and understanding protocol when it comes to what the First Nation wants, instead of coming in and telling them what they need to do. Another positive aspect is seeing more land-based education, more dog-led tours, and some of my friends who have their dogs and their dog-led tours, but is also promoting responsible dog ownership and bringing back the teachings of how valuable dogs were in terms of helping us travel on the plains and in the north. I did a presentation for university students at the vet college. They asked me to come in, and the audience was great. And at the end, they came up to me and they asked me the specific questions. They're like, thank you for coming in. As you can see, most of the audience, is like, non-native women or settler women, but we want to help. And we want to help in a good way. Like, how can we do that? And so I was like, I had some answers on the spot, but I put them in a list here because I see this being played out online as well. The big thing is just to, offer support and listen to people, and promote what you can share to the band office level, instead of just telling them what they're doing wrong. And I feel like that's getting a little bit better. And the big one is like not being performative for social media and, taking selfies. I've seen that being played out, but, just if it's part of your reconciliation, just keep it, keep it legit, keep it respectful, and, understand as well that First Nations people are still trying to survive through this Indian Act, because the Indian Act still exists. Some of the harsh rules of the Indian Act are now gone, but yeah, people have to understand that the Indian Act did not provide any resources or supports for anything in terms of our livelihood, and specifically for dogs. And so we're just trying to get through that. So I'll just touch on the four roles of activism by Bill Moore's, this diagram here, where there's the reformer, rebel, citizen, and social change. And I consider myself an activist. So, and looking at this model, I know that I'm being the voice for dogs because no one else is talking about them, at that time. So I was the rebel. And, I'm also a citizen for Muskeg because, I'm a dog owner and I'm promoting responsible dog ownership, and I'm being a rebel. And nowadays, through Save Rez Dogs, I'm I'm a little bit of a reformer because I'm taking it to a political level this summer, because that's where I know there could be more systemic changes for dogs, and just being the voice at the, the chief and council level and at the Assembly of First Nations level. So, and it can evolve. So I'm just using that as an example for what I can offer. Social change agents would be people in, vet care, the rescue people, to provide services. So that's where your role could be. And, finding your rebel, finding your citizens, helping your citizens, and, and talking to your reformers to, build more sustainable systemic change. Okay. Community readiness. So this part can really tie into, why are there so many dog bites then? Well, you can look at this diagram and see like stages of community readiness, because a lot of First Nation reserves are at different levels. Some might be like, nope, we're still killing dogs, to some being like, we have a rescue who's helping us that we fund, and we do animal spay neuter clinics, and we help our owners. So it's ranging all over the place. And this meme that I put, I as you can tell, I use memes to share a lot of my information. And this one shows a reactive or a reactive decision versus a preventative. And we're trying to promote more preventative by just talking about it and advocating and educating people. In 2020 in Saskatchewan, this was the beginning of summer. I was 1 year into Save Rez Dogs, and I was kind of like, I need to get a feel for what reserves are doing. So I created a small survey, got a couple of my cousins, and we're literally on the phone trying to connect with all 74 nations in Saskatchewan, because there are 74 nations in Saskatchewan. We got through to less than half, just about 33, and 2 out of those 33 only had ethical animal welfare management plans where they helped the dogs. All the other ones were like, no, we don't have a plan, we don't have bylaws, and we hire someone to destroy, shoot, or take care of dogs. And so that was a big indicator that I was like, wow, Saskatchewan has a lot of work to do, and the community readiness is really low, which will tell you like results in dog bites. So often this question comes up like, well, why is it hard for leadership to focus on dogs? Like I mentioned before, when it comes to the Indian Act, our people are putting out fires everywhere, and dogs are very left ignored on the agenda. But then there's other reasons too. People will straight up have no lack of knowledge or know-how, or not even realize that they should do something because they've grown up to normalize the life of Rez Dogs, right? And that's how Rez Dogs have always been a bit of a joke. Other people just straight up don't want to help dogs. They don't like dogs. They don't want to help dogs. But this person is in a elected leadership position. So I'm like, again, that's very problematic. And that's why I promote my high school students, why voting matters when it comes to chief and council on your own reserve. Like, you don't want, linear thinkers to be in decision-making positions, because that's a big part of the challenge. The Indian Act has turned our governance system into a joke where it's a popularity contest, and who gets the most votes. And then when people get into these positions of power, they want to stay in these positions of power and maintain this lifestyle of traveling, of per diems or whatnot, what have you, and forgetting the basic needs of the community, and which leads to safety issues and safety risks of many different things, and not just dogs. So it's across the board. Again, why is it hard for dogs to focus, or for leadership to focus on dogs? There's no services around, you know, there's remote reserves that have no services around them. So it makes it a little bit harder. There's no bylaws. Some have bylaws, some have bylaws, but they're not enforced, which means they're just collecting dust. There's no funding to hire animal control officer. There's no training to hire an animal control officer. There's people who don't want that role because it's too much. There's been people who've had funding, who've had training, and there's maybe 2-person to a team for a whole res, and they've quit because they're like, this is too much, because it's not just dogs that are the issue. There's so many things, you know, at play. For example, when a family can't even afford to feed themselves, but they have a dog, how could they feed their dog, right? And then you can hear the discourse of people being like, well, if you can't afford a dog, why should you have one? Like, it's ridiculous. I guess I'm trying to, you know, help our people. And then I have, you know, non-native active opposition on this side who are uneducated and linear thinkers, and, you know, trying to judge something that they have no idea what's going on. So, yeah, and why is it hard for leadership to focus on dogs? There's been people who've been animal control officers, or not even, or just hired to cull or shoot, and they've been plagued with having PTSD, bad luck, or nightmares, and I've heard stories about that as well. So there's not a positive light when it comes to dog on reserve, because things have been normalized for so long. The discourse runs deep, and not a lot of people have dogs on their agenda until maybe, I don't know, yeah, a few years now. But with the work of Save Rez Dogs, you know, rippling education out to people, and people taking change and, or, you know, making change in their own reserves, like, good things can happen for to be community ready. And that's by, you know, finding their roles of activists and finding their people to support them, you know, finding a rescue, calling a vet clinic, or calling vet students, or calling your chief and council, you know, just using your voice to be community ready, and getting more community groups involved on reserve. And I've just made these memes as an example, like, you know, there's existing groups in community that, you know, could help, like hockey groups, you know, hockey teams. They're super important on reserve, but there's ways that they can still give back and volunteer. There is dancers and singers, you know, powwow singers that can also give back, right? Because they will, you know, they're filled with teachings, and they're circular thinkers, you know, and there are ways that they can get involved. Sorry, I had laryngitis, and so my voice went, but I'm good. I'm just like, uh-oh, we're getting a little dry here. This portion is more of resources and ideas. Again, this is available on my website. If you find the Prezi and you go through all these files, you'll find that these are links if you click on them. I promote this this community dog book for people who want to help their community out, because it'll help you plan out and sort of figure out, okay, what are the issues? Here's some terminology I didn't know. What's going to be our plan? There's no answers in there, but it makes you sit down to answer these questions that, you know, that people aren't asking. So this community dog book is super awesome, and it helps my community as well. And I'm lucky enough to have vets at the Univest to provide resources and supports for people. So they've added their email, so anyone's welcome to contact them for assistance. Applying for grants. So if you want to take it a little bit farther to get some funding to get something started, Indigenous Service Canada has funding programs to like Pathways to Safe Indigenous Communities Initiative. And Indigenous Community Support Fund proposal. So you can get funds to hire someone to collect data or hire someone to regulate, but you have to have a plan of what you're going to do. But these are funding programs available. There's SIGA, there's TELUS, and there's other Métis sponsorship programs. These are general funding application questions to help guide you through what is your plan and what do you want to do. Dog bite prevention tips. These are good for anyone, especially for my own children. And when I was a teacher as well, leaving the dog alone when they eat or chew on a bone, that's a lot of these might feel like common sense, but they're just reminders. Not waking the dog or bother them when they sleep, not hugging closely or forcing dog to show attention, respecting a dog's boundaries. If a dog is in his crate is off limits, don't poke your fingers in there, having gentle words, gentle pets, teaching children young. Never approaching a dog that's not yours, kind of thing. And importantly, never leaving children and dogs alone together. But these are tips that are universal. Everyone should know to keep children safe. And these are rules that I have in my house as well. 10-step action plan ideas for people who want to help dogs or, be an ally or get involved in your own community. The biggest one is committing. Committing to taking action and whatever will fit you. If it's just sharing stuff on social media, having a fundraiser, fostering if you want to take it up a notch a little bit. All those things really help. Help a lot of people and especially animals. Having a stakeholders meeting with departments to build ethical and enforce animal bylaws, that will take time to get there. You kind of have to get your foot in the door to get that. But it's calling the band office, it's setting a meeting, talking to the director of operations, it's talking to the counselor that you voted for, and eventually calling for a stakeholders meeting. So that would be like all the managers from different departments of the health clinic, education, governance, housing, etc. So because all those people have a play in building a healthy community, which then promotes a safe community. So that's the ultimate goal. And so everyone has to be on board. And you can do that by hosting a community consultation, having a bingo as a fundraiser and a consultation. If you're into communication, reaching out to local rescues and vet clinics to, see how much they charge, if they're available to help, or if they could come to your reserve. Gathering demographics. So this is important. So like gathering information from everyone on the res on like who has a dog or a cat, how many, gathering that data is super important as well, because it's a good step in regulating and supporting these owners, right? And then seeing like which dogs doesn't have owners or someone looking out for them. So collecting data is super important as well. And, providing that information to the stakeholders and at the health clinic, especially because they're the ones who deal with the dog bites. So making sure that the health clinic is super involved. The other things are building dog houses, creating monitored control lot for lost or strays, building a dog park on reserve. I've never seen that, but I'd love to. That's a goal for my own reserve, is to get a dog park put on there, just to separate, free roaming dogs to an owner who actually wants to go for a walk with their dog and not be bothered. Like those progressive things need to be talked about at the table. And again, like fundraising. There's more people can do is literally role modeling positive relationships with animals. So being kind to animals. I've heard stories of people walking out of out of a building after a meeting on the res and seeing a dog or seeing someone trying to feed a dog, but the, you know, counselor or whoever is telling them, don't bother, let them eat dirty diapers. And you're like, what the heck? Like, it's so random to hear stories like that, because I'm like, these are people in meetings to talk about our communities, but this is how they are. And so it's very problematic. So that's why I encourage my young students to get heavily involved in, or to be a little hyper aware in politics as they grow up, because it's super important. Donating to local shelters, fostering, all the stuff, reaching out to the school and health clinic to build initiatives. So that's super huge that people can do if you have services to offer. How animals can assist in a good way. So again, education, partnership, listening, and policy. And policy can also be protocol as well. And getting our youth motivated. So, sorry, I need water for this one. Schools on reserve are heavily underfunded, which means they do not have the same programs as small town schools or big city schools, which means they're not exposed to what opportunities and what options they have for them outside of the reserve. And so I encourage, outsiders to come in respectfully to, do presentations from a veterinarian's perspective, to a lawyer's perspective, to a vet assistant, to show them like, these are options for you. Bring ideas for them. Because the kids, and I know this from being a teacher, they know what's right inherently and they know what's wrong, and after they hit a certain age and teenager, like what's been normalized for them, it will be embedded and the discourse will be a part of it. So we have to encourage them when they're young, because as they grow up, they'll be able to use their voice more and say what's right and what's wrong. Using our love languages. This is for kids and for everybody, the love languages of physical touch, acts of service, words of affirmation, quality time, and there's another one, but sorry. There's ways you could show love language for dogs, and these are just examples in my own life where I use all my love languages to help dogs, and it's through promoting artwork for kids, by spending time with dogs, by fundraising to get dog houses made, and just having a fundraiser in general to bring people together to talk about dogs, and to raise funds for bigger initiatives. I'm almost done here. These are just highlights throughout the years of my collab campaign with Idle No More. The positive side of having merch, and cool merch, I might add, and seeing it in the hands of people that I admire, people that I've watched on TV, people like Biff Naked, who I listen to, like just rocking our merch. And so that is the really positive side of doing the Save Rez Dogs work, because it can be such a roller coaster. I can see like all the awful stuff, but then, seeing all the cool stuff and knowing that there's a lot of people behind the movement, and, and repping our merch where they go. If you're an 80s baby, growing up in the 90s, you might have seen Smoke Signal. So seeing Tan2 and Gary Farmer wearing my merch is super cool to me. And we just made a cute little meme out of it. A highlight is us having our own pet ID engraver, which we keep in our office down here. We fundraise for it. And we provide tags, for free at most events. And we provide tags for people who've done spay-neuter clinics, because that helps promote safety for animals. And again, we'll have a ripple effect for people in the community. What you can do if your dog has puppies. So this was one of my first graphs that I had made when I started out, because I wanted to reach my demographic of people who didn't have services. But I'm like, but these are ideas that you can do. I have a template on how to make a doghouse, which you could add your own ideas to it, like more insulation, because, as we know in Saskatchewan, our winters are very cold. This was just a highlight that I raised 25,000 in 1 year. That was a big goal for me. Being a semifinalist in Powwow Pitch, I didn't make it to the next round, and I feel like it's because I'm not registered, and I'm like, and I don't want to be, like, I don't want the government involved. I don't have to report what I'm doing to the government, because I'm like, the government is responsible for this whole mess, like when you think of the Indian Act. Anyways, calling for more Indigenous rescues, because representation is important, and I want to enable our community members from different nations to get involved. And I'm seeing it now too, like I'm seeing, young women, young men, showing more initiative in their community to start their own rescues or building fences, and that's awesome, and that's what's needed. So we just need, our chief and council to support them. And this is just a fundraiser I had, which I have another one again. My merch. Oh, sorry. I have a lot of items of merch for my vendors. I'm starting the vendor season in June. I have about 6 vendors I'm going to, so I have them listed, and I have them all available on my website. And I think, yeah, that's it so far. So, yeah. Now we have about half an hour for questions. Yeah, Jackie. Yeah.
Thank you, Leah. That was amazing. Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So if anyone has any questions, please enter in the chat or use the Q&A function. I haven't seen anything yet. As I have put in the chat, please go to Leah's website and take a look. This presentation is available on her website, so you can get all of the information, all those links, the documents that she's referring to. So for sure, take a look at this amazing website, as well as go to that fantastic merch page and take a look at all the wonderful things that you're able to buy and share with others.
Thank you. Yeah, this is where the Prezi is. Can you still see my screen?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Yeah, click the Prezi, click on this, and it'll bring you to the Prezi, and then you just fly through it. Or you can just click on action plan, and there it is. This community book is also on my website as well, but it's a PDF, and it helps you develop a plan on where to start and all how to address specific situations. So when I saw this in 2019, I was like, what? Like, wow, there's cool people doing this work, because I felt like I was going to go in a good direction. Because when I started Save Rez Dogs straight up, I had no idea what I was doing, because I'm a teacher. I just wanted to help dogs. But then when I saw resources like this, I thought, wow, this is right on. Like, I have to educate myself, because I am not an expert on this at all. I'm just a person that is very passionate about helping others. That's my love language. And, children, making sure children are safe. And that's the end goal here too, right? So I'm just doing my job by tackling this situation by keeping our dogs safe too, because by keeping our dogs safe is keeping our children safe. And I see, like, sorry, I go on tangents here and there, whatever, but because that's what I see a lot is it's one or the other. It's like from a non-native perspective, there's people who just want to save the dogs, and of course they care about children, but on a First Nation side, they just want to take care of the kids, so they're going to kill all the dogs, and I'm like, that's not working anymore. That's such a band-aid linear approach to it. We have to look out for both of them, and we have to support our owners and get involved. And it gets so political. but that's the area where I'm heading in. I'm heading into politics, and it's scary because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but whatever. I'll talk my way around it. And then this is my merch page. I started out with these little stickers. These little stickers here were my very first items because I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what the hell I was doing. And then I got t-shirts, and then I just got more stickers. And I have a friend who's a designer, and she just like encaptures everything that I want. And she helped me with our orange shirt design, which is like Ituak, which means they love one another, of our orange shirts here. Because my parents went to residential school. My mush went to residential school. So I'm first generation not to go to residential school. So this is my way to honor that and give back, and yeah, provide an orange shirt for Orange Shirt Day and Canada Day and such. Yeah, it's been a pretty cool, pretty emotional side hobby, I guess. But I love it in a very sick way. As there's a lot of self-care in this work.
Yeah, well, your passion just shines through, and it's so encouraging to see someone just take on this initiative, and to see how, like, that's a really short time with the amount of time, and sort of doing this on the side of your desk kind of thing, like that, it is beautiful. I know one of the comments in the website was asking if they could have your contact information. They'd love to bring you to their community. Yeah. And so that's all on your website as well. I noticed that. Yeah. So anybody that is wanting to connect with Leah, definitely can contact her that way.
Yeah, for sure.
I love. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I just was going to say, I have a list of older media features from 2020 to even last year of interviews that I've done. Kind of all the same, but yeah, you could sort of see the growth. I'm getting a little bit, I feel a little more confident and stronger as I talk more about this. But when I started this, I was like, I just want to help dogs, but I've evolved and I'm growing, and I'm learning how to use TikTok. I want to learn how to use TikTok more. I'm a millennial, and memes is my way of, communicating and making jokes, but I'm going to tackle TikTok. Oh. And yeah, contact us. You can do it on the website down here. I'm the only person that sees it. I run pretty much 95% of Save Rez Dogs on my own. I don't have a team. My co-partner, co-parent, he helps me here and there, but when it comes to presentations and merch, it's just me. But it's something I need to do because I don't have enough to do.
Well, that's so encouraging. So I don't see any questions. There's some thank yous in the chat, and just people really appreciating what you're doing. I just think that, yeah, it's just amazing. And I'm excited to see where the future holds for you as, sharing this message and just really empowering communities to help communities. And, that definitely is helping, all our animals and helping our children, which ultimately is going to help us all for sure. So.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm kind of on X. I kind of stopped Twitter. I don't know. It just got weird. But anyways, Instagram and Facebook are my main things. So make sure you follow those places for updates. Yeah.
Great. Well, still no questions. So of course, feel free to contact me, Jackie Eaton, and I can connect you with Leah as well, or contact Leah directly. The recording will be forwarded to all people who had registered for the website. It will be on our website as well. And so when you get that link, feel free to share that with your colleagues, friends, community members, anyone that you know would be interested in having this presentation. When you close your Zoom link, when you leave this webinar, we will a pop-up will come asking for you to provide some information, like a survey evaluation on the presentation. And ultimately, this is to help us know what kind of things you may be interested in for future presentations, as well as to give us feedback on how we can help our communities. So again, Leah, this was awesome. I am so thankful that you were able to provide this presentation for us today and share all this really useful information. And it's just been a pleasure getting to know you a tiny bit, and I look forward to future connections in the future around this and other ways, and seeing where you may end up in the political world, if that is what you choose.
I don't know.
But definitely within the educational world, I think that's the power, is let's help our young people for sure. So I appreciate that you are helping those voices. So okay. Anything else that you'd like to share?
No, sorry, I was reading something in the chat. No, thank you so much, everyone. Just shoot me an email. I will gladly reply. Thank you so much, Jackie, for inviting me. And yeah, I'll do this again anytime. So yeah.
Fantastic. Have a wonderful day, everyone. I hope the sun is shining in your community. It is here in Saskatoon. So take care.
Okay. See you. Take care. Thank you. Have a good summer.
Bye.
Bye.